Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video I want to use Outlook 365 to create an 8x8x8 calendar. So I read about the 8x8x8 method very recently, and it's a pretty straightforward time blocking methodology where you devote 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to leisure, 8 hours to work each weekday, basically. And I want to do that with my 365 calendar here because I think it'll be useful for me and for students. Now, I'm currently on my academic calendar, but whenever I want to create a new calendar experiment, it's always nice to start with a blank slate. So I'm going to click Add a Calendar, create a blank calendar, and this is going to be my 8x8x8 calendar. And I'll just click Save, and I will close it. Now, I want to make sure that's my only active calendar, so I'm going to uncheck my academic calendar and make sure that my 8x8x8 is the only active one. Now, I don't think I'm going to plug in my sleep 8-hour block. For me, that might be from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. But I do want to put in the work and the leisure, and then I want to show you how easy it is to kind of maybe break up the 8-hour block into smaller chunks and then just duplicate those events. So I'm going to start off like this. I'm going to go ahead and pick a time like 8 a.m. and this is going to be just a generic work block. And I'm going to do 8 a.m. all the way down to like 4 p.m. That'll be an 8-hour block. I do want to put a color code on this, so let me go to More Options, Categorize, and I'll just make it my purple category. And oh, I definitely don't need a reminder, so let me go and get rid of that reminder. And I'm not going to repeat this one. So I'm going to click Save. Now I've got this big block. Now once you have these blocks on your Outlook 365 calendar, they're really easy to click and drag up and down to move to different times. And then we would do something similar for leisure. However, for that, some of us may have problems working with these big 8-hour blocks. So what if instead we split up this 8-hour block into smaller chunks? So when this time block is active, I can click on one of these sizing handles on the bottom or the top, and I can make it smaller. I'm going to make this one, let's see, it's 10:45. We'll go to 12:45. So it's a 2-hour block now. And I want to duplicate this. So I'm going to right click on it, duplicate event, and all the defaults should be okay. I'm just going to click Save. I got 2 of them now. I'll just move one of them downward, right click, duplicate, save, right click, duplicate, save. And so now I have these 4 2-hour blocks, and I'm still part of that 888 plan. And then similarly, I might go ahead and create some leisure blocks in between. And obviously you can decide for yourself how big your leisure block should be, but let's not try to make them too small. I'm going to go ahead and pause real quick, and I'm going to make leisure blocks using the same basic technique. Okay, so I've got my leisure blocks and I've got my working blocks on there. Now let's take a little moment to arrange these. And because there's nothing special about each individual block, you can just drag them around to where you want them to be for that particular day. I'm going to assume for Monday, I'll be leisurely from 8 to 10, and then I'm going to have a work block from 10 to 12. In fact, I'm pretty certain I might have 2 blocks back to back, 2 work blocks that is. And let's see, maybe I'll do a leisure block, and then let's move that leisure block down, a couple of work blocks, things like that, and then leisure block, leisure block. Now I know my sleep time likes to get to 10, so already with this method we can see, boy, it really is tough to kind of factor in where those are going to be. However, I tend to wake up around 6, so I might move a leisure block from 6 to 8, and then I can take one of these later work blocks and move those a little bit higher. And so I'll work from 8 till 2, take a leisure block, and then work from 4 to 6, which I think fits with what my plan is. And I can move a leisure block up here, and then I get finally to sleep time at 10 p.m. So there's a combination of using the 888 method with some time blocking. Now what you would do is you would work on this during the day, and we'll start off and say, okay, we're going to get to our first work block, and we go through that and we focus on that time for work. And then of course when our leisure block gets there, we focus on that time. If necessary, you could obviously extend things down or move things around. Maybe I don't get to all the leisure that I was hoping for that day. Try to resist making these time blocks longer or shorter. Let's not exceed the 8-hour blocks for anything. And then as you get into the evening, one of your activities can be, well, what's your next day going to be? So you just head over to your calendar and you think, okay, is my previous day going to be the same as my next day? And you're doing this in the evening. Well, maybe it is. And you can just take these blocks and just drag them over to the next day. That's pretty easy. Maybe it turns out, you know what, you're going to have some weekend or some evening plans for a lot of work. So maybe you're going to end up moving a lot of that stuff down there, and you're going to make sure to take a bigger leisure block in the afternoon. And so each evening you're moving ahead and you're preparing your leisure blocks and work blocks for that next day. And of course, if you have your work calendar set up next to you, you kind of factor that information in. For instance, I know I've got office hours and some class meetings at certain times. I know I've got some department meetings and things like that, and some evening homework labs and stuff to go to. But I also know I might have time in the middle of the day to read, relax, go to the gym, work out, and stuff like that. So it's going to be very custom for each person. But using these individual blocks could be an easier, more efficient method, more realistic method than using a big 8-hour block where you're tempted to break away and do something else. Now, again, we could break these down even smaller into 1-hour blocks, but I would discourage you from going much smaller than that, because then you're just going to create too many little events. You're going to be jumping around from too many things. As Cal Newport says, you're probably not going to be in deep focus. So so give this a try. This is a combination of the 888 method. I'll have a link to an article in the video description, and using a little bit of time blocking where you use the evening time to prep your next day. Thanks for hanging out with me.